My dad's got bad feet. He says it's because when he was wee, his mother made him wear shoes that didn't fit him. She made him squash his feet into shoes that used to be his brother's, because she couldn't afford to buy new ones for the both of them. He's got curly toes now because of it. They're all twisted around on top of each other, like the pleats my ma puts in my hair. You can see all the big blue veins in his feet, like somebody's drew them on with a felt tip pen. He can't bend his toes right, and he has to wear steel toe caps to work in case anyone stands on them. Our school's going to be starting swimming lessons soon, and I can't wait. I can't swim yet, so I asked my dad if he'd take me to the bath to let me practice. He said no. I said, how no? He said, because I can't bloody swim, that's how no. I said, aye, but you don't need to be able to swim to go in the pool. He didn't say much about it afterwards. He just pointed at his toes and said, if you were me, would you want to show off feet like that? Swimming baths was pish. They put me down at the chalet end with this poor midden of a boy called Colin for 1E that looks like he's never had a bath in his life. And this lassie called Harpreet that wears a mad swimming cap because it's against her religion to get her hair wet. I get made to wear these big stupid yellow armbands and all the boys in my class laughed at me. All my pals were up at the 7-foot mark doing lengths and diving for rubber hula hoops.
Duck Feet is a rare thing in contemporary literature, a novel with heart and humour which is also a feat of language and style. A micro-landscape of teenagehood painted masterfully in Scots, it nonetheless speaks to the universal. It enchanted the judging panel and we have no doubt it will enchant the world.
For me, this book is all about being Scottish, living in Scotland, growing up in Scotland, so to be shortlisted for a prize that that represents Scotland is just perfect.
I stop in the middle of the Tron. Behind me there is the Royal Mile, to the left is the South Side, and on the right there's Northbridge. I stand in the middle, streets crossed below me. Tenements of all heights stand as sentinels on either side. They inspect everyone who passes below. The high street is cobbled and it slopes up. There's wooden doors and small blown glass windows or fancier sash panes with wooden shutters. A motor car turns right onto Coburn Street. The spunk hawker stacks his tinder. Between the well-dressed and moneyed, there are glimpses of the hungry and hunted. A big church has a beggar sat on its steps with his ratty wee dog. A young man smiles. He wants to defile me. An urge to let him right here in the street. Who can save me? My father is the devil. Our kind are not holy. I must perfectly hide the sharp tip of my horns. I am really happy to be shortlisted for the Fiction Award for the Saltire Fiction Awards. I think it's absolutely vital to have awards at home in your own country, and we need that celebration.
Well, what can I say? Jenni Fagan has presented us with yet another tour de force. Luckenbooth is one of those really compelling, unputdownable novels. Dark, gritty, but really compelling. It was a wonderful read.
Admit it, he thought to himself. Admit why you're here. He hadn't seen her in years, not seen her. Television didn't count, nor did the posters that went up everywhere when the singles started to sell. Cleo's wild hair smoothed out by some potion or other, her slash of lipstick a red flag, single point of colour against the monochrome. The closest he'd got had been at a poll tax rally in George Square before the song had been signed, when she was welcomed on the stage by Tommy Sheridan, hand at the small of her back, as a very talented young lady with a song I think you'll like. But Neil had been 1 in 1,000 that day, couldn't even fool himself that she was looking at him. Her voice had been hesitant at first, but she'd found herself quickly, the whole rally joining her on a chorus they'd only just learned. Rise Up had become the anthem of the anti-poll tax movement. Cleo standing on stages in Liverpool and Edinburgh and Manchester and London, her hair in a scarf and her denim jacket studded with badges, People began to cheer for her in advance if they knew she was on the bill. Cleo! Cleo! Some opportunist A&R man had seen the potential and snapped her up, and Neil had eaten dinner to the incongruous sight of his mate Gogsy Duke's ex on top of the pops, refusing to mime along, stripping off a paisley waistcoat to reveal a can't pay, won't pay t-shirt, just standing there in front of the soundless mic, staring into the camera while the recording played out around her and the rent-a-crowd bopped confusedly. There was a fade and cut back to the grim-faced DJ who tried to smooth it out with blandishments, but you could hear Cleo chanting, "We're no gonna pay yer," in the background. He had loved her all over again in that moment.
When a former pop star is found dead in her friend's spare bedroom, a nation is left asking, who was Cleo Campbell? This immersive novel sweeps 50 years of Scottish history in search of an answer, following the lives of those who tried to love her. Both state-of-the-nation novel and compelling character study, Scabby Queen wears its heart and its politics ferociously on its sleeve.
This means an absolutely massive amount to me. I did a little dance when I was told. I think this has just been such a phenomenally strong time for Scottish fiction as well, that to be part of that and to be, in this particular shortlist, it just means so much. It really, really does.
They were both still damp and sitting on the edge of the bed when the evening streetlights came on. Agnes had run Shuggie a deep bath, and then feeling lonely, she'd climbed in beside her youngest. Lizzie would have had a fit if she'd seen. It would have to stop soon. He was too canny for 5, and it was the first time he'd looked at her privates and then considered his own, like a spot the difference puzzle. The water had grown cold as he'd made a great game of filling the shampoo bottles and then soaking each other with the soapy jet. She let him scrape at the old nail polish on her toes, and his care and attention felt like a penny dropped in an empty meter. At the edge of her bed, she'd combed the boy's glossy black hair as his head lowered in concentration. He made the matchbox car squeal through the paisley maze of bedspread, and it climbed over her bare leg as easily as the Campsie fells. Without knowing what he was looking at, he had traced the white scars, the memory of Shug's fingernails that lined the inside of her thigh. Then the car careened back to the bedspread. The tires would scream loudly, and the boy would look up at her and smile with the self-satisfied face of her father. Agnes drew a fresh can of lager from a hidden place and gently pulled at the ring top. With a careful finger, she gathered the bubbly drips and popped them into her mouth. She gave the boy the empty tenant's can. He had always liked the half-naked beauties photographed on the side, and Shuggie was intent on this one. He hadn't seen her before, and he liked the way her name sounded when he spelt it out slowly, just like his Granda Wally had taught him. She, he, na.
This book pulls no punches. Unflinchingly immersive, the very embodiment of the writing brings the reader face to face with painful questions around family, loyalty, and the impossible tension between self-preservation and unconditional love. Drawing on a deep well of lived experience, Shuggie Bain is a rich painting, both ugly and beautiful.
That means the world to me as a Scottish writer. Every word in Shuggie Bain is inspired by Scotland and more specifically by Glasgow. And to see the book recognised in that way just means everything to me. So thank you.
All Jock read, he's no right in the head, his wife's a whore and his daughter's dead. Groups of youngsters and seagulls are rummaging around on the site of the old Barshaw tip. Piles of discarded rubbish are spread into every corner, only prevented from spilling outside the perimeter of the tip by a chain-link fence, which is straining with the effort. The tip is on the edge of the village and has long been abandoned by the local council, but its unlocked gates allow random dumping to continue unchecked. An elderly man, familiar to the small humans, wanders in. He's barefoot and wearing pyjamas, although it's midday. That cruel and senseless refrain sings out, chanted to get a rise out of a troubled old man prone to unpredictable outbursts that make the Barshaw youngsters laugh, that briefly relieve them of the interminable boredom of summer holidays. The chant follows him around, but the old man takes no notice of it, or us, the tuneless baiting choir. He is, as always in recent months, miles away. Most likely I can now appreciate in a painful, private world where he doesn't have to deal with his granddaughter's abduction or the terrible torment of knowing the entire community is convinced he was responsible for it. Presumed dead, unsolved child murder. Or of his daughter's subsequent suicide. He's smiling, I notice. Something else has caught his attention. He ambles towards a partially hidden upright box. He cleans it of the debris in the black bin bags that conceal it. His feet submerged in a brown puddle of sludge. He gently lifts a hinged panel. He starts massaging the black and white keys. The most majestic, mournful, colourful sound drifts across this swampy wasteland. It has me transfixed. Even the squawking birds fall silent. It's the first music to make me cry without my understanding why.
This is a gripping novel of directness and evasion, casual and calculated violence, agonised remembering and willful amnesia. Its cast of characters struggle to articulate their hopes and fears, yet Ross finds subtle ways to reveal them to the reader. Set in the rough and tumble world of Ayrshire junior football, the sport is both central and peripheral to the novel's concern with emotional connection and the terrible consequences of its breakdown.
I mean, it's amazing, regardless of what happens to it next. It's fantastic to be here doing this.